The following program is rated TVMA. This program may contain strong opinions, explicit language, and possible adult themes. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the Smoke Free Radio Network or its affiliates. This program is meant for mature adult audience. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
That was interesting.
I tell you what, it's just going to be one of those nights. I really... Evening, folks. Another edition of Vaping and the Mic. I'm Mike Peterson. Just when you think that you have everything ironed out the way that it should be, and nothing, and I mean nothing, happens.
That was interesting.
See, this thing is just bouncing back and forth. I'm ready to shoot the whole thing, I'll tell you that. But at any rate, I'm here. You might be here. And it's just going to be one of those kinds of evenings. So if you bear with me, I'm hoping that we can get through all of this. There are a couple of things that are happening. I don't know that they are all good things that are happening. Our episode this evening was supposed to be with Mr. Bill Wikstrom from the MSVAA. And that was the first thing that kind of went sideways. Bill has had one of those days that truly caught him off guard in everything that he was doing. So unfortunately, Bill is not able to make it. He was running extremely behind in a lot of things that he had to get caught up with. See, I can't even... This is just killing me. Oh. At one point in time, I swear, I might have everything done the way that it's supposed to be done. I won't guarantee it. And as Mr. Bill Tarling would tell me, don't have any dead air. I know. So I'm not going to keep the dead air people around. But we're going to have to... I'm not going to keep the dead air people around. We're going to reschedule Mr. Wikstrom. That's why you avoid ironing. I don't blame you, Bill. It is one of those evenings. Let me ask you, Bill, if you can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, does the audio on this end sound okay on your end? And I'll just kind of wait and watch. But here's the thing. I was running and trying to get all of this done. Once again, I had an absolute echo in all of my material that I was doing. So it took me a few minutes to try to get rid of all of that. Could be a little louder. Well, if I run into an echo or run into another issue, you let me know. And if I start to squeal, then we'll all know. Because I'll be the first one to cover my ears and go, oh my God, what the hell was that? Because it's right when I went and tried to get into more of a louder setting that I started getting more echo, more garbage, and everything like that. At any rate, tonight we're just going to take a few minutes and touch on a few things. As always, Bill Tarling, Mr. Tarling up in Canada, always turns around through vape distortion. And he's got so much information running around in vape distortion. But there was a piece that caught my attention earlier that I was reading, and the headline says, Miami Beach adopts legislation to protect youth from dangers of e-cigarettes. And this evidently just came out on the wire not long ago, about an hour ago, if that. Said the city of Miami Beach is saying no to e-cigarettes. Wednesday, the city announced it will impose enhanced penalties for establishments that sell nicotine vaporizers and liquid nicotine to minors. Additionally, they will prohibit the possession of these items by minors and regulate the retailers who are in possession of nicotine vaporizers or e-liquid for the purpose of selling the products to consumers, individuals, or to the public. Really. And I would have to go through and read all of this. The electronic cigarettes, they're saying, has skyrocketed to an alarming rate among teens. And again, they go right after. These companies are marketing to children with the hopes of creating lifelong nicotine addictions. The last time that I knew, there wasn't a single damn shop out there that was selling vape and vape equipment that wanted to go, oh my God, there's a group of teenagers, let's hook them on nicotine. Yes, that's exactly what we want to do. That'll further our dastardly plans all the way into the next century. Bullshit. That's enough just to get anybody's goat. Yeah, anybody, no, we're all planning on just jumping right out in front of this and saying, but we want to be able to hook everybody. Yeah, Bill, if I start to squeal, then we'll know I'm a lab rat. There ain't no doubt about that. This brings me right back to another thing, and I'm going to try. I guess tonight is going to be an hour of sitting and looking at things and finding out exactly what I can and can't do. And you would think that I might know by now. But with this software and running into YouTube and doing the YouTube Live and things like that, it becomes massively different. Massively different than doing just a straight Facebook. And I probably could do it straight to Facebook Live too, but we're kind of dumping out of that a little bit. But here's what I want to try. And it may fail. It may fall flat on its face so far down that it's not even funny. I am going to try to bring up a picture. Now we're going to find out if this will actually work or not. If it doesn't, then all you're going to see is a blank screen. How about that? And for the people that are listening, if this can pop up, then I will definitely bring it about and show you. All right. So if I go to this portion, but it no longer says this gentleman's name. Well, I'll tell you what. It's going to be one of those days. But I can deal with that. Now, let's see if I can get this to come about and say, this is what I needed to do. We got that. We got that. We're going to say there. But at this, we are also going to try to crop this thing. And again, for those people that are just kind of joining me, we have to reschedule Mr. Bill Wikstrom for a future point in time, because he ran into, he's opening a 10th shop. And I can imagine that he is having multiple kinds of horrors in trying to get that shop open. But if you bear with me, I'm going to try to show you. This I found to be more or less a true thing. Now, for the people that are just catching this on Spreaker or on an audio only, on a podcast, I've got this picture that is up that is saying, it's a big sign, left and right. It says right and wrong. But the caption that's under it says, people have the ability to do the right thing. However, there seems to be an alarming amount of them that need a reason to do so. Everybody has the capability to do right and wrong. But there is a growing and alarming amount of people that seem to need a reason to do the right thing. And the very first thing that you would probably think when they get to that point is people kick back. And it's not just our industry, folks. It really is not. This is becoming proliferated all over the place. But I'll contain it to our industry for the moment. There seems to be an alarming rate of people that, given a choice to do something right or not, their first inclination is to say, what's in it for me? Hence when I say that it seems they need to have a reason for doing it. And turn around and look up right back at the news. The news piece, it was just in Miami Beach. I think it was Miami Beach that we were just talking about. I mean, come on. Those people are all sitting down there and they're saying, Bill, darling, you're killing me. No, there is no picture like that is floating around. Bullshit, buddy. You know, Bill, I think that if you have time, I'm going to take you up on that. Because there are a couple things that I want to kind of bounce around here for a moment. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and grab our sponsor screen here in just a moment. And hope like hell that our sponsors play. But you know what? There's another way to take care of that. So I'm going to bring up our sponsor screen. I don't hear the audio that goes with it. Then we're going to know.
Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio reminding you to please show some love to our wonderful sponsors. Without them, there would be no Smoke Free Radio, and they are as follows. Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio reminding you to please show some love. All the way from Florida, Moon Mountain Vapor, with locations in Florida, and their liquid available for wholesale and retail, moonmountainvapor.com. Some of the best custards and tobaccos on the market from the Brickwills Vaping Company. Some of the best The lovely Shell with a vapor bar. Locations in Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. And of course online at thevaporbar.com. And who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon characters? That's exactly what you're going to get at theplumeroom.com. Who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon And finally, of course, the Vaping Advocate magazine that has generously provided the telephone lines for you to communicate with us. Thank you for your support. And finally, for you, the listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support. Listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support.
Now, people can still hear me while they are still looking at the smoke-free radio side while I am trying to get all of my stuff put back together the way that it should be. I have this wonderful thing. I love Zoom. And I can never... I shouldn't say never. Holy mackerel, I think I've almost got it. Oh, yeah, this might actually be something a little bit more worthwhile, huh, Bill?
Your audio is sounding really weird. It's almost like someone's crackling something in front of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining me this evening is Mr. Bill Tarling, and I'm going to put his name back the way that it should be instead of reading picture. Oh,
just put in the ass. People don't know me.
Yes, it's a picture. A picture of what? A picture of a guy up in Canada. That's what it's a picture of.
Want me to move my image over?
Nope, I got you.
Okay.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Vancouver Island, Canada, Mr. Bill Tarling. How you doing this evening, Bill?
I'm doing okay here. I'm going to move some of my stuff over so that you don't have to play around with it as much.
Oh, I got you pretty well squared away this time.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, Bill Wikstrom was going to join me this evening, and unfortunately, he had to jump out. And it was just one of those kinds of things. So I'm like, well, but I really appreciate you joining me this evening. I have a couple of questions.
42. Did I win?
Right. I don't know, but if you get the chance to sneak over into Washington State, go play the Mega Millions, it's up to $900 million.
You got to remember something, though. Every time it goes up, you always end up with 50 times more entries, which means that when there is a winner, you usually end up splitting it up so that you get a smaller prize than normal, than when you actually have better odds.
Do you know, I've actually watched that, and I think that there are times that I see only one or two people actually win, and not just a handful. You know, it's not like there used to be everybody would go together at work and let's pitch in $2, and we've got 100 people now that, you know, we bought 200 tickets. It's like one grandma in New Jersey and one somebody else all the way out in Delaware or something, you know?
Yeah, I used to actually track a lot of it and program in some things, which work pretty well. But I found that whenever it gets super high, that's when everybody wants to buy a ticket. And so you end up with a whole bunch more winners. And I tracked the long term of it, and you actually started getting less return than you would when you had hardly anybody playing, and you actually had a better chance of winning.
That's what I was watching about that. But then it used to scare the hell out of me because then you would get older people that would mortgage their home.
Exactly.
You know, oh, we're going to win. We're going to win. We can get $50,000 in a mortgage for our house. Don't do it, folks.
Another big difference too is in the States you have to pay tax on that. In Canada, we don't have to pay tax on any of our winnings.
Yeah. No, in the States we sure as well do. There is no doubt about that. Did you, and I know that you were the one that posted, for people that caught a little bit earlier when I was talking about the Miami Beach mail or a piece of news that came out this evening that they want to, they're just having a crappy time with all of their garbage that they're doing. That's a nice way to put it.
Well, this has actually been bouncing back and forth for a couple of weeks now with Miami. They keep bringing it up. They've been trying to pass it. And like I said, it's basically vaping gets lumped in with everything to do with smoking. So we've really got to focus on getting the word out that vaping products, e-liquid vaping products, are not the same as heat not burn, are not the same as cannabis, are not the same as cigarettes. And we really have to start getting it out and known that we are a separate product. Because the easy thing for them to do is anytime you have a smoke-free regulation, we'll toss in vaping. Need to change the regulation? Just add vaping into it, done. And they figure, there, we've saved the public.
Yeah, they think that it's a plug and play.
For them, it makes them look good. It goes, see, we're protecting you from all these people getting back into smoking, and they're using the misinformation. But if, for instance, in Canada, a lot of the cannabis regulations now, you can legally smoke cannabis, recreational cannabis in different areas.
Really?
And so they automatically started lumping in vaping has the same banned restrictions, except cannabis can be used in a lot of places where vaping can't. So what they do is they put vaping in with cigarettes, and then they allowed the cannabis regulation separate, unless they put a restriction on the cannabis area. Then they toss in vaping as well as restricted there as well. So there's a really big misconception and misunderstanding, and unfortunately the industry never approaches anybody on it, explaining that there are different categories, different types. For instance, your e-cigs, especially the first generation ones, let's say from a year ago, that are in convenience stores and gas stations, or even the pods, the closed system pods. There, they don't need instructions. People basically buy them and use them. You don't have to have safety instructions. You don't have to go, well, will this device match with this item sort of thing.
Right.
Those I'd like to see. I have no problem with them being widely available in gas stations, convenience stores, and so forth. But then when we get to vape shops, anything second generation and higher, in other words, if you can have anything refillable, then that should be restricted to a vape shop. And I mean a dedicated vape shop, not a head shop that also sells vape stuff, a dedicated vape shop.
Right.
Reason being, you have to match it with a person. If somebody has PG sensitivity, you need to be able to help them with that. You have to have the flavors, because that helps the smoker stay off cigarettes. So you need to match them, because you can have 50 different oranges, and they're all different oranges.
Different flavors. I got into this, I'm not going to say an argument, but I got into this with, we'll call it a discussion, with a person once before. And they were saying that they want Juul and all of the pod materials to be sold only at vape shops.
I disagree.
And I'm like, okay, I can understand your thinking behind that, but do you understand that the reality of that won't happen? And he said, why?
You'll have about 10, let's say approximately 10, it's probably more, but let's say 10,000 vape shops across the U.S. You're going to have about 250,000 convenience stores and gas stations. Plus.
Bingo. And Philip Morris, whoever is making any portion of that jewel, they want it accessible in every Tom, Dick, and Harry location, every C-store, every gas station, everything, everywhere, all the time. Not just a vape shop. That it doesn't open until 10 in the morning and they close at 8 at night.
And don't forget, you're also very limited with those closed system pods. In other words, you have their proprietary flavors only, and you have their high-priced refills only. And so for the smoker, unless you happen to can tolerate one of those 5 flavors or it appeals to you enough, you're not going to keep the smoker. Now, a lot of the big tobacco, like people are going, heat not burn won't survive. Heat not burn will survive. As a matter of fact, PMI, it already has their new version of IQOS getting ready. And,
like a Gen 2?
A second generation IQOS. And they aren't going to initially start it in Japan because they're saying the market is flattened, which isn't really true. In Japan, the reason the market seems flattened is they've reached a peak, but the government there is also putting out their version of heat not burn as well right now. And plus you have the other companies who have used that as a test market as well. So Japan was the test market. So while it's evening out, it is not flattened. In the US, people are going, well, IQOS probably won't go here. Well, you got to remember, there was another big tobacco company that got their IQOS put theirs under trying to get it through the FDA. But another tobacco company brought their version out under a substantial equivalent and got passed. So now I figure IQOS will now go for substantial equivalent, get it passed, and they don't care about the shelf life because guess what? For their new version that they've got coming out, they'll just say once it's passed, for the first version, they can say, now the second version, we don't have to go through a PMTA. This is a substantial equivalent to this previously approved version, which was previously substantially approved equivalent of tobacco.
Good God.
So that way they can, if needed, they can avoid the whole PMTA issue.
So the FDA is going to go ahead and keep a PMTA hurdle right in front of the vaping community. And they're going to go ahead and give big tobacco a pass.
Pretty much, yeah. Because why? We don't use tobacco. They use tobacco, and tobacco is previously approved.
I think I read somewhere earlier today also that I think it was Philip Morris. Again, in one of the things that you had posted, they're expecting an answer and approval from the FDA before they get to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Which means they're going to be bringing out their...
Because the FDA has already passed their deadline. And so they have to come up with something. And now that a substantial equivalent has been approved for another big tobacco version of heat not burn, it's going to be harder for the FDA just say, no, you're strictly banned under vaping regulations, because then it's a case of, hey, we're now submitting it under substantial equivalent. And until you have that processed, we'll have it still on the market.
And for people that are going to listen to this later on, before they even think about coming back and saying, yeah, but there is no way in hell any vaping product can take on that same substantial equivalent, because we do not use tobacco.
And we weren't around before the grandfather date.
Yeah.
And you also have to remember with PMTA, you've got to prove your tests. And since we use refillables, this one liquid, we need to test in every device available, in every combination, in every wattage, and so on. With the reason the FDA's happier with the tobacco companies is because they know everything is proprietary. So we only have to deal with 5 or 6 flavors, all from the same place, which are actually selling the device as well that go with it. And they're all locked in. So we can just deal with one company for the whole industry.
And
like 1 to 5 companies.
That in itself is kind of
100,000 companies.
That one gets me, because and I've heard Demetrius and yourself talk about this plenty of times, there is no way in hell that we can get any liquid. I can't take my liquid and go to every iteration of every device known to God, because the minute that I would try, the smoke could come out with another 8 products, and they would come out with another 15 different types of coils, and I would never be able to actually finish.
Exactly.
I'd run out of money.
A lot of people were going, well, if one gets approved, then we can get something else approved. You have to understand, they can stop it at any point that they want and say, okay, no, we refuse that test. The other thing is everyone's talking about the money, which the cost, first of all, is prohibits basically manufacturers from being able to do it. It's going to cost too much. The other thing is, even if you ignore the cost entirely, the process time, because you are not allowed to put that product out until you have your PMTA approved. So that can take a year, 2 years. At any point, they can say, nope. They don't even have to give a reason. Say, not approved, resubmit, and start right over from scratch. So they can actually delay anything that they want for years. So even if you have a product that you want to bring out now, if you have to wait a year or 2 years, in the meantime, you're working on a replacement version and you've got something better. But then by that time, you're going to have to wait another year or 2 for that. And you're going to have in the meantime, working on something new. So
yep, it's going to be continuously chasing you. Going to be continuously chasing your tail in doing it and doing nothing but wasting money. No, it's ironic. I was talking with another gentleman, chatting with him last night, that he has a couple of stores, and his thought was, the way that things are right now, it's like Big Tobacco and the FDA are trying to strangle the hell out of the vaping industry, let us kill each other, trample over each other, decimate our own industry.
We've been killing ourselves for years.
Yeah. And then Big Tobacco will come in, purchase some manufacturers. Mm-hmm. Then the industry will get shut down.
I'm going to toss something in here, too. For the people who keep talking about Juul, Juul has already gone in for a press interview and said, would you consider being bought out by Big Tobacco? They said, oh, yeah. We would look forward to discussing it with them.
Yeah, they would. I mean, they'd be a fool not to.
And Big Tobacco would gladly pay them multiple digits in the billions.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They've got such a huge market, and that's what they're buying. They're not buying the product. They're buying the market.
Yeah. They're buying whatever patents they have, whatever they've been working on, and the marketing and distribution system that they have.
Yeah. Well, if you already have the customers, and you've already got that portion, well then buy out Juul, that portion is now yours. And that's how that's why there's so few tobacco companies. What they do is they could run out the little guys and basically organize it so that we can afford to stay in business while things are being done. As a matter of fact, a lot of their stuff, they don't really care if the IQOS gets approved in some areas where it's being released for final official approval. In other words, go to a grandfather date, because by the time there might be a decision one way or the other, they have the next version ready. So as I was saying the other night on Dimmy's show, Big Tobacco will go, you're right. This product shouldn't be out there. It's not quite right. So we'll pull that one off. Oh, by the way, we have the new version of it now. So over the next 6 months to 2 years, while you're officially trying to get us approved, or while we can delay it in court, this will be on the shelves. Shelf life is what's critical in their marketing. And they know that we have a limited shelf life. So in the meantime, we will have it out there. We will have our funding going. We're already working on the next version, which we're going to replace it with. So we don't care if this lasts very long. And that's how they operate. A small company who only deals with their own little product can't do that.
Lord knows I could never get into anything like that. There's no way in hell. For me, it is just survival one step at a time, 1 week to the next.
Plus, think of it this way with the closed systems. For instance, the pods. Your Juuls. Who makes the Juul pods for the replacements? Juul. For IQOS. Who makes the heat sticks that go in it?
Yep.
same ones who own the ICO. So they've got the content and the devices.
Yeah,
all
in that just look like an Apple company. Apple
Yeah.
makes the products. They make the software for their products. They make everything that goes into their product. They regulate everything. It's siloed. It's a very siloed system. You go to a Windows PC and you've got every Tom, Dick, and Harry that writes software for it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the give you an idea, the IBM was, if you want to go right back to the early history of computers, that was where they killed the Mac in the early days, was because the Mac made it strictly proprietary system, strictly their own. No other devices could go in there. IBM left it so that at least other devices could go in there. And then what they would do is, once that happened, you had the market, then they would have it so that you had to run your device according to how they manufactured their computers. So you still had to work through them.
Yeah, they would sell you the interface.
And a lot of them had to go through the licensing through them to make the stuff that could be used in their computer. And that's the part people forget is, in the early days, people were still paying for the licensing.
Yep.
So IBM was still getting their money.
Yep. God, I remember that. You go back talking about that, and that was in the days even before DOS when you were running Fortran. And for those that are much younger than 35 years old, you won't understand what the hell Fortran is, and that's okay. To you, it might sound like pornography, but it's not. It was that stuff of code that would give you a headache.
And a whole bunch of others.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned something. You were talking once again about, and I keep bringing this guy up because it's just on my mind all the time. Chris, and if you would pronounce his last name for me.
Chris Rothy.
Thank you.
Sounds like coffee, but with an R.
Yeah, and I keep and it's right on the tip of my tongue, and right when I go to say it, I will normally malign the shit out of people's names. But you said that you were over at his shop, and he had picked up some of the new Aries or Zenith material, or the
Cool Fire with the Zenith, and he also has the Chroma. I was in there. I went there and spent the morning, about 3 hours there, and during that period, he had basically converted 5, 8, almost 10 smokers. And what was funny was a lot of the ones that came in, the people that came in had like those starter devices, and there were smokers from the previous week that he had converted and brought in their relatives or brought in their friend who was a smoker because they were so surprised at it. And he took the time, went through the same thing with each one, made sure that before they left, they're all set up, said, I want you to check with us a couple of days, or if you can't, then within a week or so, let us know how it's going. We'll be able to adjust whether you need a higher nicotine or something lower, or if you need something a little different or a different flavor to keep you off cigarettes. So he follows up with them. But yeah.
And that's what...
Almost every single person was a smoker that came in that became converted. And they are now ongoing customers.
And they're telling their friends. It reminds me of the old shampoo commercial. And you'll tell two people, and so on, and so on. But it never stops amazing me how many smokers this guy is converting on a daily and weekly basis, as well as...
We're a huge megatropolis type city. We're fairly small cities, and yeah, he has steady people. He's also, I was in there, he had an elderly lady, elderly, she was probably late 60s, and she had brought in, I think it was her mother who was almost 90.
Oh my God.
All her life.
Really?
And got her set up with a Cool Fire, and she walked out and just going, I like this. Like, she was just so surprised. But he runs through all the information with them. He actually, whatever liquid he's getting them set up with, he starts it off, even if he can't stand the liquid or if it's a higher nic, he's still make sure that it's all functioning right, it's at the right level, shows them how to do a slow ramp up for the very first time with coil, how to everything else. And he goes, and if you ever have any problems with it, or if you are ever unsure, don't feel embarrassed, come in, we'll do it for you.
See, now that's one of the biggest key ingredients, is that he is two things: sincere
Oh,
in
yeah.
what he's telling people,
Yeah.
and he's taking the time to educate them, so they're not going out with this cloud chucking machine. They're able to walk out the door with something that fits
Yeah.
and works.
He might go with something small, and if he's talked with them, he asks them a lot of questions about what brands they smoke, how much they smoke, where they smoke, when they first start smoking, and when they get heavier, or if it's mainly during stress, if they're working, what kind of work they do, so that he knows, okay, you're in construction, then we need to switch to something else a little stronger, with a little more protection on it. So he really spends time to match it. And if it's not quite working for them, he at least then has an idea of where to go for matching them properly. And so I've seen it. His success rate with smoker conversions is like, it's unreal. It's pretty much steady. And again, every smoker he converts has already done 75% of the job talking the next person that they bring in to convert as well.
And that's what, here again, I hate to say it, but that's what a lot of shops down here in the States are not doing. They're just not doing it. They're still selling the latest, greatest hardware. We got this new in this week, and
it's not just in the States. There's another city about 45 minutes from here that I stopped in the vape shop there, and I'm looking, and they had a couple of pen devices as their total stock for mouth to lung. And I asked them, where is your starter stuff in mouth to lung? Well, the owner said that they don't really want to carry it because most of the people use the bigger stuff. And so I told them, like, you realize you've basically, I go, how's your business? It's going, it's on and off. It gets pretty slow. That's why.
yeah, because you have not paid attention to your core market.
All you're doing is catering to the current vapor, who then, when they move on, or if they go elsewhere, if they see, hey, I know really good bargain online, get it from there. So if you only cater to the current vapor, you're probably going to get a portion of their sales, but not much.
Yeah.
If you convert a smoker, you have them for life. Like they remember you're the one that helped them get off the things that they have tried everything under the sun to get off of.
Do you know?
You're the one who helped them kick a 55-year habit of smoking without going through, I'm going to go insane, withdrawals.
Do you know, I bet you that's a very true fact, that if you were to talk to any vapor, they could tell you exactly where they were and what did they purchase and what flavor for their first item that actually was a satisfying vape. They will also remember the things that were a piece of shit or that they couldn't use.
Yeah. And that's why what happens is people are going, well, that's why there shouldn't be ASIGs and Juuls and IQOS and everything in gas stations, convenience stores, and general stores. I disagree. Because, first of all, they have a huge number of stores. Like we're talking about, compare, and like I said, I know the figures are going to be low, but let's say 10,000 vape shops in the U.S. compared to 250,000. There's actually probably closer to about 2 or 3 million convenience stores and gas stations. And so you've got the market in there, and a lot of them who are smokers will be, fine, I'll try one of those. Some might go, I might be able to get away with this once in a while. Some will be, it's not really my thing. Some will be, yeah, I can use this a little bit, so at least I'll cut down on my smoking. But we know that it's not going to be the, oh my God, this is so good, I don't even want it. I don't want my cigarettes anymore.
Not that often.
So then at least they've tried something, whether it worked for them or not, in a regular convenience store. Then as they're passing a vape shop, they go, those things are supposed to be a little different in there. They probably have a little more. Let me just stop in and check. And I've actually seen this in the shops where people come in asking about, do you have these e-cigs like they have at the gas stations? And he can immediately take them and tell them the difference. And they try one. He goes, okay, you've tried one of those before. Well, yeah, and it was okay. He goes, okay, try this now. and you'll hand them a small starter device, and they go, "Holy shit!"
Yep.
Bang. You got 'em.
Huge
So
difference.
at least with it being in the convenience stores and everything, it takes away some of the stigma of the negative media where vaping will kill you. It is worse than cigarettes. This stuff will pollute the whole world and you'll be turned into a chemical zombie. At least it takes a little bit out of their mind. They tried it and they go, the gas station one, it's okay. It didn't at least sound like an immediate negative.
Right.
It'd be like handing a 95-year-old granny saying, here's a 12 coil, 5,000 watt device.
Granny,
Let's crank it full out.
It runs on a car battery. Granny takes one hit, falls over. No lung capacity.
4,000.
Yeah. Yeah. That came from, who? Phil.
Yep. And it actually did make it on the market at one point. Somebody actually did put one on the market.
Oh, my God.
It didn't sell any, but it was still funny to see. But at least then you've taken away some of that stigma where if they go, it was so-so, that they might go to vape shop. Well, it's not going to kill me. Pop in. Maybe they have a little better flavor or something. And they pop in, and then you can get them to compare the difference. Then suddenly they realized, holy shit, that's nothing like that little tiny thing. It's like going from a tricycle to a Harley.
Yeah.
It's a case of like the satisfaction of this is I can see this possibly replacing my cigarettes. And the other thing Chris does this, he said on your show, he has no problem with them dual using for a while. If you need to dual use and it's cut you down, then fine, because that gets you through that craving of having a physical cigarette.
Yep.
And he knows that once it's dialed in, they will end up going more and more with the vape and smoke less and less with the cigarettes. And then they're going with the vape.
Yes.
And for instance, myself, when I started, I had no intention of stopping smoking. I had no interest. I'd long given up. I went through patches. I went through the Nick gums. I went through the Nick lozenges. I went through Chantix. I went through other prescription medication. I went through acupuncture. I went through 2 sessions of laser therapy.
Damn, Bill.
And I'd basically given up. So I didn't care. I figured if I can convince myself with this stupid little vape thing that if I can replace every 5th cigarette, that might cut down my costs on the cigarettes a little bit. Prices kept going up, and the whole fallacy of, we raised the price, that way it'll help people quit. No. What do you do instead? Groceries, cigarettes, groceries, cigarettes. Well, that's a no-brainer. Give me a carton.
Yep.
And so that doesn't work. So I spent about a week and a half, 2 weeks going online, checking out different devices, trying to find out how, because originally in Canada, it was always said that, these things are illegal in Canada. And so I figured, well, okay, that ends that. Then I started thinking, it doesn't make sense if this doesn't have all this other stuff. Let me check into it. And that's when I started finding out that, there was a lot of bullshit. As a matter of fact, the pharmacy was selling the e-cigs at the time. And the ones they had, I wasn't impressed when I did some research on them. So I watched some YouTubes. I watched actually some of Phil's stuff early on. And I decided to go with my Kanger, what is
Kanger Mini? Or the Kanger 7 mil?
Well, no, way before that. The little pens. The Juul, not the Egos, but the I forget what they're called. I've got the box somewhere down in my piece here. So I decided, well, there's 2 of those, which makes sense because if I get tired with one flavor, at least I'll have another one. And then for the e-liquids, I started seeing all these people talking about all these lemon pies and all these drinks and all these cookies. And I'm going, I'm not interested in any of that shit. I checked. These 2 were close enough to 2 of the brands that I smoked. So I said, I don't expect them to be the same, but if I can even simulate it. And because they're 2 slightly different tobaccos, that way, if I get tired of one, I can hopefully switch the other back and forth. And so that's what I did, was just got the tobacco, and I had no interest. Chris opened up his shop, and first time I went there, and he had the flavors for testing, because you could test the flavors back then in our area. We can't really anymore. You sort of can, but not really. And he kept going, well, here, try some of these other flavors. I said, no, no, I'm not interested in vape for that. I just want, give me my tobacco, this what I smoke, something similar to that. And that's good enough. And it was about a month and a half later, after him saying, well, because he knew that I liked root beer and stuff, he said, and grapes. So he said, give it a try. I said, fine, if it'll shut you up, fine. So I tried one or two, and I'm going, not my thing. Not my thing. See, not really. Root beer. Whoa! Then I tried the grape, and I'm going, okay, try that. Ever since then, because my taste buds have started to come back, ever since then, I've never gone back to the tobacco. And I've tried a couple of tobacco ones since then, and I really don't like the taste.
No.
Of the tobacco ones.
I don't either.
Yeah, there are some people who that's all they like. For instance, Patrick loves the tobacco ones, which great. But the whole thing was, I started expanding, and then I get into a lot of flavors that people don't like. I like the really hot cinnamons. I like the black licorice. But then I've also got my candy canes, my bubble gums, my pineapples. I've got so many different flavor profiles. And so I'm constantly changing flavors all the time. Now, I'd had cancer surgery in the nose about a year and a half ago. Not because of smoking, it was skin cancer. But unfortunately, with the surgery, it cut out a lot of my taste because a lot of your taste buds are through the nose. And from there's some flavors which I can't really taste anymore. For instance, one I used to love, which was vanilla. I can't even taste vanilla anymore.
Oh.
But luckily, I was a major candy person, and then I was pre-diabetic for a while. The doctor said, okay, you've got to cut it out. I mean, pre-diabetic. My candy bill at the dollar store was $89 a month.
Holy shit.
So I went through a lot. So I go, okay, he goes, you got to cut down on all the sugar and stuff. He goes, I don't know how you're going to cope. I said, well, I got my vaping. So I had, Chris, he had one that was a type of cookie. I don't know if there's a brand for it or not, but there was a cookie type that I really enjoyed there. And there were my other ones. So I switched that and had my numbers checked again. And the doctor goes, your numbers are really improving. He goes, how the hell are you managing not to stay away from all your sugar and your candies and all this other stuff? I said, I've still got the flavors from the vaping. So I
just
don't
not
really
the sugar.
miss it. And he goes, well, with the vaping, let's keep checking your numbers. And he kept checking my numbers. He goes, okay, you're no longer pre-diabetic anymore.
Wow.
He goes, your numbers have improved that much. Now, that's not a medical claim. That was just happened to.
But here again, and for anybody that is going to listen to this later on, Bill does not own a company.
Not recommending.
He does not own a store. He does not own anything. So the FDA can kiss his Canadian ass. He can say whatever he would like.
I do want people to understand. I'm not recommending that as, oh, here's a medical solution for you. It's a case of, no, that's not what it is. It just happened to coincide with, as he was monitoring my figures, this is what happened. So for me, that was an added benefit. Years ago, I'd had an accident in a lumberyard where, and these guys were really high on safety. So it was a freak accident, but one of the pipes burst and I had a whole lung full of cedar, which is kind of permanent. Oh. And so I was on an inhaler for a lot of time as well. So my breathing never really fully returned. At least once I started vaping, got off the smoking, I'd found that I could do a lot more, go a lot longer, and so on. So these were just things I noticed for myself personally. It might not be the same for everyone, same as I was one of the lucky ones. From my very first vape, I haven't had a cigarette. As a matter of fact, I've mentioned it before, but to prove it, I had 2 packs of open cigarettes with me when I got my first starter. That is still the same untouched pack that I had with me the day I got my starter kit.
Wow.
There have never been any more. I can smoke, I can roll it around, I can feel it, no interest in it. And the reason I keep it there is to show people that, no, it's not a case of like the nicotine will give me the cravings or not anymore. It's a case of that's how huge a thing it was. And the reason I kept him beside me was I wanted to see if when I was vaping, how much I'd be drawn. Okay, let's go back to that.
No.
And that's why I always keep it there as a reminder for me, and I don't hide it away in another place. It's right in the drawer next to me, and it's still untouched. If you want, you can even count them, and if you ask me on another show, I'll bring them out again. And you can count
I believe
them again.
you. It's one of those things that
I don't know if you can see it, but there's the date when.
Yep. Smart move. It is true that very many vapors, once they turn around and they find their particular flavor and their particular nic level and what works for them, they don't ever go back, because after a short period of time of vaping, you light up a cigarette and it tastes horrible. Phil Bissardo.
There were two comments when I started vaping that I had come across. I figured, no, it'll never happen. One was, and this did happen to me. He said, you'll be a lot more sensitive to the cigarette smoke, not necessarily attracted to it, but to be more sensitive to it. And you'll have to look a lot further for where the person is smoking. So there was a big event at our town here, and I'm at the corner of the street, and suddenly I'm going, holy shit. Like, I figured it was like 30 or 40 smokers around. And I'm looking for cigarette smoker, people with cigarettes in there, and I don't see anything. I look across the street, through the parking lot, down the back of the parking lot, behind a pole. I could see a guy going, and like, he's about 150 feet from me, and I'm going, wow. Yeah, you can really start smelling. And then what it made me realize is I really felt bad about my friends and families who were non-smokers, of how it must have been for them around me, even when I go outside, because of my smoking. The smell must have driven them nuts. So
yeah, I can't even fathom how some of my family put up with me, when I was stressed and 2-pack a day. And
yet when you're a smoker, you never even think about it. It's a case of, I don't smell anything. No, my clothes are fine.
Yeah.
And it's after that you realize, oh my God, no.
Yeah. I did the same thing when I was out at the store earlier today, putting groceries in the back of the station wagon, and I'm like, somebody's having a cigarette. And I'm looking around, and it's like 6 cars away. Mm-hmm. And the person just had their window down, and it wasn't really that far. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. But it's the same thing.
What's also really funny is I came across one lady outside the store, and she saw me vaping. She goes, those things stink to high heaven and everything. Can't stand the smell of them. Oh my God, they're pungent. And looking at what she had just bought from out of the store, I said, oh, you get some candles? Yeah, I got some scented candles. And I'm going,
mm-hmm.
Oh, have you smelled this one? Which I took out. I just happened because we had a blackout earlier, so I still had a candle that I was carrying around with me, but it was just an emergency candle, no scent to it. And so I lit it, and I said, what do you think of this? And I held it away from her, and off to the side, I just took a vape. She goes, oh, that smells really nice. Where did you get that?
It's this new candle company right down the street. You want to go check them out? Damn.
But it's the media says it's bad, it's nasty, therefore automatic is, oh my God, no, oh God, that smells terrible. What does it smell like? I don't know.
I don't know, but it's bad for you. When we were talking just a moment ago about that, you go back and you try to have a cigarette after you vaped for a while.
His recent video.
Yes, it was the greatest vape trick.
The vape tricks.
Yep.
And the best trick of all. And he had actually inhaled a cigarette for that one. I give him full props because
he said he brought it into his mouth. He wouldn't inhale it.
Yeah.
He just puffed on it.
He actually could not get rid of the taste of it all night.
I chatted with him, and he said that had to be one of the worst things he had done in a long time. He goes, the taste was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, when we were smokers, we could tell the difference between each different brand of cigarette. And, no, this one tastes good. This one's a little too strong. This one has a nice little tang to it.
Yeah, now go back and try any of those things that have a little tang to it.
Now, like I said, there are some people who like the simulated tobacco flavors, and I always say simulated tobacco flavors because it's not actual tobacco leaves going in here.
No, it's liquid flavoring, folks.
Yeah.
There's no tobacco.
Like it, and they have the different other flavors in with it too, and which is fine because at least they aren't smoking the main thing, the combustibles.
Have you had a chance to try the Heat Not Burn, the IQOS?
I haven't. I've just really had no interest, mainly because I don't.
It's a
really
tobacco
care
product.
about tobacco flavors.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
They just don't interest me. I do know a number of people who have. Most of them have said, "Yeah, I'd rather vape."
Yeah.
But the problem is, unless you have a smoker try it and start getting their opinions rather than a vapor trying it, because a vapor will always try and compare it with how
What
their
they
vape
know.
tastes. Yeah. Now in Russia, the IQOS and the Heat Not Burns are still extremely popular, and you'll have people who both vape and use the Heat Not Burns as well.
Really? Well, that's the land of vodka.
A lot of them smoke like hell too, but you'll see a lot of them will have their Heat Not Burns and the heat sticks and everything else. One thing I didn't like was, and PMI actually said this in hearings, was we have intentionally made our Heat Not Burn approximately the same price as cigarettes because we don't want people to think that this is an inferior product to a cigarette or what they're used to by it being so cheap, and therefore we have made it the same price so that they can go and make their decision and they aren't afraid of it. What they weren't telling people was, yes, a big portion of that price of the cigarette packs that were being sold went to taxes.
Yeah.
So you had like, whether it's 40% of total cost or 80% or whatever, that went to taxes. Well, with the Heat Not Burn, they got to keep the portion that was taxes for themselves.
And the amount of actual tobacco product in there is like 1/10 of what is in a cigarette.
And plus the device itself.
Yeah, which is cheap because they manufacture them in a cheap.
So basically, let's say it's only 40% is tobacco tax, which it's way higher, but let's say 40%. So if now you're getting that 40% of the full cost or retail, and you're getting pocket that, well, that's way more than your previous portion that you were making as profit.
Yep, and that's what people need to remember, because Big Tobacco is not going to just give up their revenue stream, people.
They don't care if you dual use, because if you're buying their Heat Not Burn, or if you're buying regular cigarettes, it's going to them.
Yep, they're still making
they
money.
Don't care. And they use it as oh no, we want to stop smoking. Except you look at all the companies, and maybe not in North America, but everywhere else, a lot of other countries, it's a case of, here are our new product lines, which we've just developed. And we've got another new product line that we're putting out for combustibles. And so we don't see that here. Well, I do, but
yeah.
But
Bill
they
sees
are coming
everything.
out with new combustibles.
Bill sees everything. And I'll tell people yet again, if you get a chance and you're on Facebook, look up Vape Distortion right there on Bill's screen, spelled just like that, and you'll see what we're talking about.
It'll automatically put you to the group.
Yeah,
it's not really a chat group or anything else. I just try and put the news articles. I don't really have everyone debating every issue because then it starts bumping old pieces up. But what it is, I try and keep track internationally, different stories of what's happening. Then I also have other side groups which I don't post on there, which is keeping track of other things happening in the industry so that we know, at least those behind the scenes have an idea of what's coming up or what the ants are working on, or some of the different directions that might be used against us. So that's a lot of preparatory stuff, but for a lot of people, it would be overkill.
Yep.
So I kind of leave that out.
For a lot of for me, I keep getting a lot of this in my newsfeed, and I'm looking and I'm reading, and I try to keep up with some of this, and I'm like, oh my God. I have to parse through it, and I can't even imagine what you go through on a daily basis. Just overload, information
overload. I send
overload.
you is about 10% of the links and articles I check.
Unreal. Well, Bill, I tell you what.
The reason I don't necessarily share it with everyone is because it's overload. It's hard enough to get them interested in anything advocacy to begin with. So you don't want to just throw tons and tons more and say, but this is how it affects the big picture. They care about what's happening now and locally. What's going to affect me? For behind the scenes people, I try and keep track of it because we need to be aware so that we know the next slew of anti-vaping studies, anti-whatever, that are going to be used our way in the media.
Yep.
At least then we have a chance to prepare a counter for it rather than always having to be on the defense. So that's the only reason I do that.
It's a lot of information that you go pumping through there, I'll tell you that. Well, Bill, I tell you what, I'll go ahead and wrap up for the evening. I seriously appreciate you taking time to hop on and join.
No problem. I know I tend to rant a lot, but anytime.
It kind of educate people a little bit better than what I was doing at the moment. Everybody, that's Mr. Bill Tarling. Vape Distortion, all the way up in Vancouver, in Canada.
Vancouver Island, BC, Canada. Bye now.
So that's Bill Tarling, and I tell you what, folks, it's amazing what that man goes and does. It is just unreal how much information he does put through. It's just an ungodly amount of stuff. Everybody, I appreciate you taking time to join. We're going to reschedule Bill Wikstrom with the MSVAA at another certain point in time, and we'll kind of let you know when that was going. He's opening up another store and ran into a few problems with that. But in the meantime, I will be back again next week with another edition of Vaping in the Mic. And until then, I hope you have a good weekend.